I was visiting my family back in Louisiana, and it was like the day after our mail hit. We woke up in the morning and we had a signed PA sitting in our inbox, and I was like freaking out.
Well, there's not many business models too where you can buy for 15, sell for 27 in 14 days. It's gonna take a while for the stock market to do that, or wholesaling. It's just not gonna happen.
I'm not like super passionate about what I do in terms of my 9 to 5 as well. So I'm just telling myself, go all in for a year, see what happens. There's always going to be jobs there.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. Joined today by one of our students, has not been in the program long, but she's had amazing success, so I wanted to get her on, Jenna Cheramie. Jenna, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ron. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear your story, everything like that. First, I always like hearing the story of what got you into land, because a lot of people are so comfortable working their jobs, and I know you're still working a job. But that being said, like what got you into land? Were you always looking for something more?
Yeah, for sure. So kind of like a little bit of background about me. I kind of started looking into getting into the real estate aspect and the real estate realm. My girlfriend, who's also my business partner, and we moved to Florida last year from St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. And I had always kind of had this like entrepreneurial drive to do other things. And, I had always been interested in real estate in that kind of realm. My brother and my sister-in-law are realtors in Louisiana. And they were like, you need to get into real estate. You need to do this. And I'm like, that's awesome. But I don't know if you've looked at the housing market in Florida lately, but it's kind of difficult to just jump right in. And they were like, well, you should really look into land flipping because it's a lower barrier to entry. You don't need all of these like crazy licenses and stuff like that. And so I was like, what's land flipping? So he sent me over some information. He actually sent me a link to Land Investing Online. And he's like, this is Ron and Dan Apke. They have a great program, sort of thing. You should just check out their stuff, check out their podcast. So I did a little bit of research. I actually started listening to the podcast back in October, just kind of like jumping into it and kind of immersing myself in land flipping. And then I set a goal for myself at the start of January that one of my New Year's resolutions was to not only start land flipping and like take it seriously, but to also flip one piece of land. That was my goal for the whole year, was just buy and sell one piece of land. Because I was like, I'm new to this. I just want to set an attainable goal. I don't know how this is going to go, sort of thing. And then I just kind of made the decision at the start of January, like, okay, this is what we're going to do. I got my girlfriend on board, and we started at the end of January. So I think like January 27th was the official date that we joined. Sent out, we kind of just like hit the ground running because we were so excited, and just like went through the course, devoured the content, sent out mail 2 weeks later. And it's definitely been a little bit of like a learning curve, and, a kind of just like a journey for us of, seeing what works best and stuff like that. But it's been insane so far. So yeah, it's been great.
It's really, really cool to see all your success, because I know we talked on the phone probably a few months back, and you were talking about like just your goals and this, and like I remember you saying to me like, yeah, just one deal will be fine. And I know I'm sure you've readjusted your goals. Well, talk about those first few mailers. What kind of results you saw? What kind of successes? What kind of lessons? Let's talk about those first few mailers that you did.
Yeah, for sure. So the first two mailers we did, we had been kind of figuring out what we really wanted to do in terms of like how we wanted to send out mail and stuff like that. So we had looked into rocket mail and stuff like that, but we really ended up deciding, we kind of saw the success that other people were having in terms of the home mailers and stuff like that. And we were like, we can learn from these people. We can learn about, what's working and what's not. And so we decided to go the home mail route. We did it through a company called The Addressers first. And so that was where our first 3 counties that we mailed came from. And yeah, it was definitely a learning process, but we were super excited for our first mail just because we didn't really know what to expect. And we ended up sending our mail. It hit about 2 weeks later. And just that first call, the first call was someone who, just said, oh, we'd just like to be taken off the list. But just having that first call and kind of just hearing someone's actual voice of like, oh my gosh, our mail hit, and it worked, was just super exciting. And that county, we actually, we had a lot of leads and a lot of, I consider it success just because, that was kind of our first time really getting into this. But, kind of the learning curve there was, we realized we didn't have the advanced version of the land portal. So there was, some slope issues. A lot of the land that we were getting back was, heavy slope, things like that. So just dealing with issues like that and kind of going through that learning curve of like, okay, now we know that this is a thing we need to look out for. But again, just thinking back to kind of like the leads we got from that and just how excited we were to have that and to realize that like, okay, people are interested in selling their land. Like this is a tangible thing that we can do. It was kind of just like a proof of concept, even though the first 2 mailers, we didn't get any deals from it. We were like, okay, this is a thing, this can work. And so that was kind of our lessons for that, was just kind of going through, what works, what doesn't. And we saw the power of like home mailers too, and like the power of, handwritten addresses and stuff like that. And, just, I think that was like a big, like light bulb for us in terms of, okay, this can work and this is what's right and this is what's wrong. And we can go through and evaluate. So when my girlfriend and I, when we were thinking like, is this successful? We counted those 2 mailers as successes. I think we sent out maybe 2,000 for each of them. Didn't get any deals from them, but we're like, we got calls back. We had interested people. We have the proof of concept, and we can take what we've learned from those 2 mailers and apply them to, other things and improve our process and stuff. So I think that's really what this whole, business model is about. It's just improving your process, getting better each mailer, seeing what works, what doesn't, tailoring it, and kind of, just going off of that.
I think given your success after those first 2 mailers, like you're coming off very positive about the whole thing. Like right now, like, I just was positive. Were there any doubts in your mind after those first 2 mailers? You obviously took it as a learning lesson, moved forward and made a lot of things happen, but were there any doubts in your mind?
I don't think there were any doubts. I had tried other business things in the past and stuff, not in the real estate realm. But I felt more confident in this business model because I'm like, there's people who are doing it. Like I'm talking to them. I'm actively talking with them. I'm in the group with them. I'm in the course with them. It works. If you put in the work and you put in the effort, it works. And if you follow what you're supposed to do. So there wasn't really any doubt, I don't think, because kind of in my mind is like, you only fail if you quit. And so I'm just like, I don't think that it didn't not work in terms of by sending those mailers. Like we got excited just from the small things. I remember the first mailer, I was visiting my family back in Louisiana, and it was like the day after our mail hit. And we woke up in the morning and we had a signed PA sitting in our inbox, and I was like freaking out. And I remember we were taking calls in between car rides to visit my family and stuff like that. And just kind of like that, that excitement of just the initial, proof of concept. So, to answer your question, no, I don't think there were really any doubts that we had. We were just, interested in, pushing forward, improving our process, learning from what we did right, what we did wrong, and just kind of going from there, I think.
That's really cool to hear. And like the people that are successful in this business, like you are, and like you will even keep growing, are people who learn lessons from quote unquote, like everyone, like, and I'm the same way in sports. And like, I think too many people in sports learn from losses and just celebrate wins, opposed to there's a lot in sports where you can learn from wins and losses as well. Like if you don't play as well, like there's always stuff you can learn. I think in sports, like there's always like, all right, you won by 1 point, so you won, you're happy, everything. While there are so many lessons through successes and failures as well. And you obviously took that from the quote unquote unsuccessful mailers. So let's talk about some of your first deals that you've done. So you're someone who I don't know who's done deals the fastest in our community. You are definitely up there in terms of like getting your first deals start to finish very, very fast. Talk about your first deals that you got as far as like your first successful mailers.
Yeah, for sure. So after those first 2 mailers, we ended up partnering with Nick Ooms, who he was on the podcast recently, and I know that was his second time on. And I kind of like a little bit of background. I was driving to work one day and I was just thinking about all of the success that Nick was having with his home mailers. And I got this kind of crazy idea of like, what if we could create a win-win situation out of this for both parties? So if there was a way where we could partner with Nick and do his home mailers and stuff like that, but in return, he would get a percentage of, the net profit from our deals. So that way, we're paying him for the mail. He's doing the mail because his mail has like a proven success in, a proven track record. And in return, then he would get some of our deal. So I just kind of, I didn't think much of it, but I had already been talking with Nick just because, I was gravitating towards people who were doing successful things that, that we were doing. So I know there's people who are successful with texting, but we were doing mailing. So I was kind of gravitating towards those people and trying to learn as much as I could from those people. And so Nick was one of the people that I had been talking to. And I just kind of threw this random idea out there. And I was like, what if we did this? Like this is a cool idea. And it's a way for you to also expand your own business, and kind of expand, how many people you can reach. And he was like, that sounds like a great idea. And I was like, okay, cool. And so, we kind of came up with the terms and stuff like that. And I was kind of his first, trial run of doing the home mailers for other people. And I remember we did a test of 500. So this was my 3rd round of mailers. We did a test of 500 to a county in North Carolina. That was one where the deal we just closed on the sell side, that came from that batch of mailers. And we also have 3 PAs that are signed by one of the guys on the deed, and we're waiting for the other one to sign. So that's 4 potential deals that are coming from an at-home mailer batch of 500, which is insane. Wow. So I think it went pretty well.
That's awesome.
On the first one, but yeah, that one. So that deal that I was talking about, I have the numbers here. We actually just closed on that a couple of weeks ago. So that one was 1.56 acres. So it was buy for 15, and then we sold it for 27.5, and we sold it exactly 14 days after we acquired it. It was kind of this random, right place, right time sort of thing. We sent our PERT guy out there, and he said the neighbor came up to him and was like, I want to buy this property. And I was like, okay, perfect. So that was our most recent deal. And we have a lot of stuff in the pipeline right now that we're just kind of waiting to see through. And then I have some other numbers here too. So then after that, we're like, okay, these home mailers, thumbs up, 10 out of 10, great. And so we kept sending kept using Nick's mailer system. We still use Nick's mailers. And we sent 1,000 mailers to 2 counties in Alabama. And that one, we have 2 properties that are currently under contract and on the market for a double close. And then we have one that we actually just received the PA back from yesterday. So that's kind of how our new mailers and our new system has been going. And I think kind of in talking about these first deals, I feel like it's easy to talk about the successes and stuff like that, and that's important. But really the main thing that I've kind of taken away from this, aside from, the different things that we should look out for and the different processes and stuff, is really I feel like the thing that we've learned is the power of partnerships in this business, and always thinking in terms of win-win situations. So how can I help someone, and then how can they help me as well? So creating something that is just a win-win, everybody benefits from it sort of thing. And that was kind of the idea with us partnering with Nick for his mailers. Kind of another example was we partnered with Nolan on one of his properties that he had in Virginia. So, he was going to just assign it. And we said, why don't we go half and half so that, we can both get this sort of full experience, get the whole from acquiring to disposition. And he said, yeah, that's great. So, we ended up partnering with him on that deal and going 50-50 on it. And we closed on it, and it's on the market right now. And we're just getting a lot of good feedback from that and a lot of good experience. So that's kind of been our biggest thing, is just, working with other people, but really coming up with situations of how can everybody in this situation benefit,
Ever wondered how land investing can be the fastest path to financial freedom? I break it all down in my new book, One Lot at a Time. I'll show you exactly how to find, buy, and flip land for huge profits without dealing with houses, tenants, or any crazy renovations. It's simple. This is the book that I wish I had when I first started. If you're ready to take control of your financial future, grab a copy now. One Lot at a Time by Daniel Apke. Find it at your local bookstore or on Amazon.com.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, and it's cool to hear all your successes thus far. How did that first check feel? Getting that first check is kind of, it's crazy. And you felt like proof of concept the first call you got from quote unquote failed mailers that we talked about before. I can't imagine the proof of concept when you get that first check, right?
Yeah, it was insane. Kind of just opening up my bank account in the morning and seeing that that check hit. And net profit for that, I was thinking about it and I was like, this is basically 2 months worth of my normal paycheck.
Wow.
And that's kind of another light bulb moment for me, where I'm like, I didn't have to work, because I'm doing this on the side of my normal 9-to-5 right now. And just having that, that idea of okay, net profit wise, the actual amount that we take home from this deal is 2 months worth of my salary. And I didn't have to work 40 hours a week for 4 weeks or for 8 weeks to acquire this. I'm just doing this on the side right now. What could happen if I just went all in with this? So actually, fun fact, I am taking this full time in June. So that is a decision that I have been pondering and I feel confident in. It's mostly just because, I'm not super passionate about what I do in terms of my 9-to-5 as well. And, I've built up kind of this emergency fund. So I'm just telling myself, go all in for a year, see what happens. If something, if it's you get to the end of the year and it's oh, I can't support myself with this, there's always going to be jobs there. But I feel like it's time to go all in on myself. And, that's what I'm doing.
And it seems like with this, like you found the right vehicle for yourself. Is land for everybody? Probably not. It's for a lot more people than they realize. But yeah, going all in. And by the time this airs, this is going to air in June. So you might be a full-time land investor by the time this airs. You most likely will be. So that is exciting. Congrats on that. And so what are your thoughts on that transition? Like what's going to change in your business? Because like you're not working a lot on your land business right now. And now you have all this free time. Like, yeah, you could keep doing the same thing and you'll probably be fine. But you also can scale this thing up. What are your goals in that regard?
Yeah, I think the goal to start would really just be to send out more mail consistently. Right now we're very scaled back just because when we get an influx of deals, it's kind of hard to keep up with that on the side of our 9-to-5s, because my girlfriend and business partner as well, she also works a 9-to-5. So kind of just scaling that up, maybe taking some of the load off of her as well, because she's in between meetings at her normal job, like making phone calls with the county or sellers or, buyers and stuff like that. So really just scaling that way, sending more mail, being able to actually do these deals a little faster. Like right now, we give ourselves a little bit longer due diligence periods just because we only have like 2 hours a day by the time we get home. So just kind of moving through these faster, just being in better contact, sending more mail, and, getting more deals that we're able to actually handle, I think is our short-term goals for this.
You have a great like excitement and energy about you in terms of this business model. It seems like it's like you found it. You found something that like, okay, this makes sense. This is working. Like you said, you've tried other entrepreneurship things. What makes this different than other things that you have tried or done?
I really feel like this is different for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons though is like I feel like we're actually helping people. So kind of our business MO, our LLC is Dear Friend Land Co. And the Dear Friend comes from my last name, Cheramie, actually translates to Dear Friend in French. But that kind of has become our business model as well, where we want to bring a level of, we want to be personable. We want to bring a level of like authenticity to this. And we are coming into this always with the intention of like helping landowners. So, when we talk to people or when my girlfriend talks to people, if they say, I want more money sort of thing, or like, I want to list it with a realtor, we'll always be upfront with them and be like, yes, you can list it with a realtor. Like we will never tell them like, we'll always assess their situation. And if we think that we're not a good fit for them, we'll tell them that. We'll say, maybe we're not the people that you need to work with. And kind of always just approaching it from a sense of, we want to help you. So like, even if we don't get anything out of it, we at least want to help you find the right people, get in contact with the right people. I've had people reach out about properties on, Facebook Marketplace, and our property isn't the right fit, but I'm like, well, maybe I can get you in contact with someone who has a property that would be the right fit. So kind of always just coming from that place of trying to help people. And, I feel like that could be applied to anything in life. But, if you go in with the intention of, I want to help this person, I feel like you'll always get way more returns than, if you didn't.
Yeah, and it's a feeling that the sellers get. Like the sellers probably feel comfortable talking to you guys about their situation, what they're trying to do. And then when you go and pitch a double close or something, like, yeah, I understand you want more money. I can't give you that like fast, but give me 90 days. I'll get you this money. I'll take care of you, everything like that. And like those conversations are going to be much simpler. Dan and I are always like, choose your damn name, choose your company name, everything like that. Like, don't take forever, but that's a good name. Like it's got meaning to it, and it connects with the type of mailers you're doing. Everything kind of comes together there. And going back to like why this business model, there's not many business models too where you can buy for 15, sell for 27 in 14 days. It's going to take a while for the stock market to do that, or wholesaling. It's just not going to happen in a lot of different business models. So I'm happy that you found the right one, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Do you think about goals down the line as far as 1, 2, 3 years of its whatever freedom is to you guys, to you and your girlfriend? Like, what does that look like down the line? You're making money in this business. What are you guys going to be doing?
I think we've thought about it. I don't think we've said, you know, oh, if we do this many deals, this is what kind of we want. I had been kind of thinking about it, but I think for us, the main thing is just time freedom. The freedom to not have to report to a 9-to-5 job every day, the freedom to, be able to do this while we're visiting our families or while we're traveling and stuff like that. I think time freedom is really the biggest thing for us, and kind of why I feel unfulfilled in my my current position, sort of thing. So just kind of having that, I always say the money's great, obviously, but the biggest thing for us is, I just want more time with my girlfriend, with my family. I want more time to do the things that I'm passionate about, and that's kind of just both of our biggest goals, I think, is that time.
You talked earlier about, and obviously your relationships you've built in the community and stuff. Talk about like the value of the Discord community, the Land Investing Online community. What has that given you? I mean, this partnership that you have with essentially who's mailing your mail for you, that's obviously valuable. Talk about the community as a whole, what that's brought to you and like your business.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually had someone reach out to me on Instagram the other day saying, she was thinking about joining the Land Investing Online community and saw my name somewhere and was just asking for my testimonial, she's like, oh, I'm unsure if I should jump in. And I'm like, you should jump in, and here's why. And I kind of just was talking to her about, the course and stuff, and I'm like, the course is great. It will get you, it'll tell you how to get started. It'll get you in the right place to get started. But I think really the most valuable part of this whole thing is the community. And if you really dive into the community and not only help others who have questions, but also ask questions, like, people are willing to share their knowledge and experience and advice. And I think that's the coolest thing, is like, it's not competitive in the sense of like, I don't want to tell you my information because, I only want it for myself. Everyone that I've talked to is like, this is what's working for me, here's my experience, and everyone is super willing to share it. So the Discord has been an absolute game changer. We've connected with so many people and, continued to learn from them and their experiences. And I mean, I truly think that's, one of the most valuable things. And I've never really been a part of a community before where everyone is championing, that's a hard word to say, championing you to win. And so that's just really cool to see. I didn't know what to expect coming into it. I'm like, oh, maybe everyone is going to be kind of like top secret about what they're doing, but it's been the complete opposite. Everyone is willing to share and help you out, and that's awesome, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what we did I've always been like proud of that aspect of things, like where I'm sure people want to make more money and like are competitive and everything, but there's not like shadiness, which I'm proud of. I'm happy about, where people genuinely, like, there's people like you, and you're going to talk to the next person, or like talk on Instagram to the next person who's like interested. There's genuinely like very, very good at word of mouth, not just for the paid and everything like that, but also just being a part of the community, talking to people. And that's one of the coolest things, like Nick helping you helping the next person who you just helped, and it snowballs really, really well. And it's cool to see, because people genuinely, like, when you announce that, and I want you to announce that, like, I'm quitting my job, when you announce that in Discord, there's gonna be so much like celebration of that, because that's a really cool thing. Like, you bought some time freedom back, you're doing this full time, you have obviously a great pipeline. Trying to think, what kind of advice would you have for someone? Like, is this for everybody? I always ask this question. Like, do you think land investing is for everybody? Is it for people trying to entrepreneur type minds? Like, who is this for?
Oh, I think it could be for everyone. I think it's really for people who, if you even have a little bit of an entrepreneurial itch, or, you've been kind of looking for, you always see online these like get rich quick schemes and stuff like that. And none of them ever work. But this is like this proven method, and this is a disclaimer for everyone watching. This is not a get rich quick scheme, and past performance is not indicative of future gains, all of this stuff. But this is a proven method where I feel like if you even have a little bit of an entrepreneurial itch and you're willing to put in the work and talk with people and learn and not give up after the first couple of mailers if they flop, sort of thing, and you're willing to just keep pushing forward and trudging forward and getting better, then this business model, would be for you. So yeah, I think land investing could be for everyone. I just think, I feel like there's always like the people who are skeptical about it, and I was kind of in that group when I started. I'm like, oh, I don't know, but the worst thing you can do is, the worst thing that happens is you learn a lot of information, sort of thing. And to me, I've always been a big proponent of like, no one can ever take your education away, kind of knowledge is power. Mm-hmm. And so the more information you have, kind of the better. So, yeah, I think this business model is great. It's definitely been amazing for us. And I just think, having that drive and the ability to keep telling yourself like, yes, I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to get discouraged if the first, second, or third mailer, flops. I think back to one of the podcasts that you were talking about where you said, I don't care about your first or second mailer. I care about your fifth mailer, your sixth mailer, your seventh mailer, and continuing to push forward,
What about, because I think more women need to not necessarily join this, just in general, like taking those leaps, like what you did, like you had a comfortable job, I'm sure, everything like that, and you took a leap. Any advice for women in particular, like I don't know what the hesitation is, to be honest with you, but maybe it's just like it feels like all the men are in this business or whatever, anything like that. But what's your advice or what are your thoughts on that? Because I would love to see more. We have nurses that have been doing this. Obviously, you've probably seen Shelby talk, and there's a lot of people, and I try to kind of get their voices out because there's so many other people that can do things successfully like this. Because people like you, women in general, like you guys talk to these sellers so well and you have a bigger picture in mind, or men might be just get the purchase agreement, do this, and that's so like hardcore like sales, where you can like build these relationships. Shelby wasn't a salesperson. You don't sound like you're a salesperson, like you're just trying to help people. But what's your advice for like women looking to get into something like this or just take an entrepreneurship leap?
Yeah, I think it's definitely important, and I feel like I can understand where it could be a little intimidating coming into something that, you look at the Discord and it is mostly guys in the group. But I feel like that shouldn't dissuade anyone, or it shouldn't. I feel like it should make you more excited to jump in, because you can offer a different perspective. And you're right. Like, I mean, my girlfriend does most of the talking with the sellers and stuff like that, but she's amazing at nurturing connections. And like now she still texts with one of our sellers for our property that we just sold. She still texts back and forth like plant pictures and stuff like that, and they text like different recipes. So I just think that's really cool, and I just feel like you can, if you're on the fence about it, you can. Everybody, no matter, if you're a man, woman, whatever, everyone has a unique perspective and something unique that they can bring to the business. And you just have to find what that is for you. I think not necessarily with, why there's maybe more men in the group than women or whatever, but I think just in general, a lot of people maybe are scared to take the leap to entrepreneurship because it is kind of like a thing that goes against our human, what we're supposed to be doing in terms of, way back when you're always trying to avoid these uncomfortable situations. And, we like security and things like that. And taking that leap kind of, the rug kind of gets pulled from under you and you're just like, I have to make this work. And so I think that's kind of why, but I've kind of come to a point. It's kind of funny. I was talking with my girlfriend about this actually, where my personality, I'm very like, I like things to stay the same. I don't really like change, but also I gravitate towards change, you know, like I up and moved to a tiny island in the middle of COVID. And just kind of stuff like that, where it's like, it's weird. It's like, part of me is like, I don't want anything to change, but then that's also what I gravitate towards. But so I just feel like doing the uncomfortable things that other people aren't going to do, you know, it's kind of like the road less traveled. Like if you travel on the road that everyone else is traveling on, you know, you're going to get the same result. But if you go a different way, you know, who knows where it'll take you. And just having that, you know, kind of idea of just like taking the chance and taking the risk. Because my biggest thing is like, I'd rather take the risk and do it. And then even if I fail, be like, okay, at least I tried it, than to have never tried it at all and be in the same spot that I'm in, you know?
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And like for everyone listening, like Jenna, if you haven't started this, Jenna was in your shoes 6 months ago, legitimately. Like she was listening to podcasts, she was in the learning phase, she hadn't done anything in this business yet 6 months ago, and now she's doing deals, she's quitting her job. Like it's cool to see, like it's just proof of concept in front of your eyes, guys. But yeah, other than that, Jenna, I really, really appreciate you coming on here today. I definitely am excited for part 2 at some point, kind of hearing as you scale up after you quit your job, hearing about that journey, because it's definitely a journey when you like that first morning you wake up and you're like, I don't have a job, I don't have a paycheck that I'm getting every 2 weeks. So, but I'm excited for you. I appreciate you coming on. Where can people find you?
You can find me in the Discord at Jenna Cheramie, or on Instagram at Cheramie_Timbers, like the pirate, Cheramie Timbers. And on Facebook as well at Jenna Cheramie.
Love it. Love it. Well, appreciate you coming on today. We'll definitely get another one on the books here in the future, 6-12 months down the line for sure. Other than that, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button below. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, share this with a friend. Put it on your story. We really, really appreciate the support. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys next time.